Because I ain't sure you know who we are.
I don't know who I am. I've got so many names.
I'm Ronnie, and this is Wild Robert over here. Not to be confused with Wild Bob.
That got me another alias.
Well, Wild Robert. Now, what it is, Wild Bob contracted a cold somewhere. I don't know where he got it, but they say it's bad, and he's an alien. So he called in sick.
A lot of times you get them colds if you're in close proximity to somebody else.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You feeling okay?
Yeah. I've been very lucky. I better not say that, but I hadn't really had a good illness in about 30 or 40 years, I guess, 35, 40 years.
I hadn't had a good dose of a cold in about 3 or 4 years. Richard brought this in. I have a little bit of a cold maybe every winter, but not to mount anything.
Is that right after you take that flu shot?
No, it ain't got nothing to do with that. But no, I ain't never found no correlation between being sick and taking a flu shot. But I have had the flu when I didn't take a flu shot, and that's the reason I take one. But now I've got, when my young'uns is still at home going to school, I was sick 2 or 3 times every winter. And it turned out I'd usually be sick on Thanksgiving vacation. They'd get sick and get well and be on vacation. And I'm there cooking and everything else, and I'm sick. And then here comes Easter. I'd usually skip Christmas. Easter, I'd get another, and they'd still be healthy, and I'd still be a cooking and me sick. And when they got out of school, I just didn't have no more colds. And Richard up here's got 2 boys in school, and he come in and infected him is what happened. I thought about suing him, but he, like me, ain't got nothing where to get him, so I just had to let it go.
Well, I believe I've been real lucky, come to think of it. I believe I can only remember having one runny nose, and that happened back here a few months ago. And other than that, I've been awful lucky as far as illness is concerned. Now, I've had my share of accidents, but background noise.
Yeah, that sounds like a woman commenting on the thing.
How many times are you get?
Nah, it's we still got equipment out running.
You need to go?
No, I'm just listening. They's having a little difficulty, but undoubtedly they've got it solved.
I met 2 of your trucks this morning. Going out toward
I don't know where they're working at, but
Gulch.
They're having the same weather we're having, I reckon.
Yeah.
They're good and bad and indifferent, whatever. But
it was snowing to beat the band a minute ago, but I bet it's over by now.
We was talking about. I've been, like I say, I've been lucky on that type of thing. I've never taken this flu vaccine. I've only been vaccinated for 2 things, like I say, in the last 35, 40 years.
Mange and what else?
Yeah, the mange and take that. What is it they give you for your dogs to keep the fleas?
Yeah.
But anyhow, took the. There's a vaccination for shingles.
I'm going to take that. I just ain't never done it.
I was kind of that, and they have a vaccination also. Now that may figure into it for pneumonia.
Yeah, I never have had that.
Other
I
than
understand that it's kind of rough, ain't it?
I don't pay no attention to it. I've been shot so many times back many years ago that
Now, I'm going to get a shingles shot. I keep putting it off. I know I ought to, but I just not done it yet. I know nobody in my family had shingles, but I had an aunt had shingles one time, and she never did get rid of them.
Well, now I'm acquainted with some people that have had it, and from what they've told me and from what I've seen of it, it's definitely something a person doesn't want to be into.
My uncle, her brother, also had shingles. Of course, they were all up in their. Well, my aunt was in her 70s, but my uncle, he was 80, nearly 90 years old, and his didn't last long. But hers, I don't think she ever completely got rid of it.
Yeah. Well, any day that we're healthy and not hurting, whatever, we ought to be thankful for it.
Oh yeah, anybody
sure
thinks
is.
money's important ain't never been sick.
That's right. That health is really your top priority.
And it's wasted on the wrong people. When you're young, you don't appreciate it. When you get old, you ain't got it.
It sure affects you, though.
I think it ought to be like old Benjamin Button or Buttons or whatever it was. You ought to start out old and then disappear as you get younger.
I saw something about that somewhere, and it kind of stuck with me. But as you're going backwards, there comes a point in time that you are no more.
Yeah.
You just ain't no more.
I know, but the one advantage or disadvantage, you at least know how much time you had left.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm about 30. I'm feeling like I'm 15. Boy, it ain't look good. I don't know when I'll be able to remember how to talk next week, and then it's downhill from there.
Well, when you come right down to it,
That's
old age might be about the same
yeah, I was
thing
going to
going the
say,
other way.
you start out somebody taking care of you, and you end up that way.
Yeah.
Somebody changing your diaper.
Yeah. Now, what else? What's going on?
Well, they're trying to get a new crowd up down in Jacksboro to figure out how the best way to disguise a tax increase. That's the main thing. That's something you better count on, is paying more taxes, city and county both, right soon, because they're wasting it too fast to keep up.
The in the tax situation, they say the revenue has fell off, which I can see that. But the fewer the people there are to pay taxes, the higher the taxes go on those who are paying.
Well,
And the more that we lose that aren't paying, it's going to get to a point that nobody will be able to pay.
which taxes have they lost? Property taxes or something else?
No, they haven't lost property taxes because they've raised the appraisals.
Well, that's what I thought.
to
They have to
compensate
take in
for
as
that.
much property tax as they did before. So you're saying that they're not getting as much sales tax and severance tax and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Well, this is the same people who based our economy on the tourist trade, and we're supposed to be so dumb, and I knew tourist trade was the first thing to go in a bad economy, but they didn't notice that, I don't reckon, didn't think of it. That was the thing we was going to do, so we based all our spending and expectations on tourist trade, and that goes first. And oh, by the way, our current president promised before he was elected to put the coal business out of business. Mm-hmm. So they wonder why they ain't getting no coal severance tax. Well, all they had to do is just use a little common sense and know that wasn't something you could count on.
The way he stated that was that you could build your coal-fired generating plant, but you would never get it licensed.
Yep.
And I believe he also used the statement that they would go bankrupt.
They would
if
bankrupt
they did it.
you,
He'd
yes.
bankrupt it. If you look at this thing backwards, we're going to consume energy as long as we're going to consume energy, and it's going to have to be produced somewhere, somehow. Most of our energy is produced by heat, by creating steam, whether it's created by nuclear heat created by nuclear fission, or coal-fired, or gas-fired. The kind of a wild idea that comes to me is by using the earth, by drilling down deep and collecting the heat out of the center of the earth.
Well, let me tell you something. That's true, and we've got a war on energy of all sorts because there are people who want us to go back to primitive society because they think everybody be more equal and their god, the earth, will be healed up and in good shape. They want to confine us all to little boxes somewhere, and we go out and visit their woods and their fields and their green stuff. That's what they want. But on the tax thing, if you or me were to run our businesses the way that the county runs theirs, or the federal government, or the city, we'd soon be bankrupt. Because like this, whenever things started going bad there in 2008, I started cutting back on expenses and not planning any major expansion or investment because I didn't know what was going to happen. These guys just kept going full blast and putting on, giving away schoolhouses and building new office buildings and putting solar panels up on tops of roofs when they could put them down the field if it's that important, and just on foolishness, build a money hole park. It's just crazy. But they knew they'd just go back to the troughs and we'd bail them out.
when you go back to solar power, the technology is not up to making it financially feasible. We have the National Laboratory, National Lab at Oak Ridge, and they work on everything. Of course, the big defense thing and how to exterminate people is one of their key things, but yet they do all sorts of other experimentation and whatever else. If solar panels were feasible, if there was a way to collect solar energy and turn it into electricity that's feasible, viable, whatever, it would be done. People have tried this for untold amounts of time. And who is it, the Titan, or did they rename that computer in Oak Ridge that's
I
the
don't
fastest?
know. I know what you're talking about.
It could make that decisions as, in other words, this computer could tell you all the things that won't work. Then that would only leave you a few things that will work. But if it could be done, it would be out here right now, and somebody would have the patent and the license on it. Now, Oak Ridge, the laboratory, one of the key things they're working on right now, and when we're talking about energy, there's all sorts. Primarily when we think of energy, the first thing we think about is electricity. But our automobiles, and of course they're trying to go electric on all that stuff, but when they talk about fuel mileage, increasing the fuel mileage and all this stuff, what they're doing primarily to increase fuel mileage is to come up with lighter materials. It takes so much energy to move so much weight to defy gravity or whatever, overcome the law of gravity, and to go uphill, downhill, but it takes a certain amount of energy to move a certain amount of poundage a certain distance at a certain speed. And a vehicle is going to consume that amount of energy, and a truck will do the same thing. If you're going up a mountain, it takes so much fuel to move so much weight and whatever. So the key thing that they're working on, or what I'm seeing, is to make everything lighter. Whenever you're converting energy, fuel energy, to mechanical energy, it all boils back down to expansion. A drop of gasoline, when it explodes and goes through the extreme quick oxidation, what it does is expands. So that's where you're changing it from one energy to another energy when you run it through a set of gears and put it to the ground. So from what I'm seeing, the only way that you can get souped up whatever is to increase the rate of expansion on fuel.
Well, there are
or any liquid.
There are certain physical laws that govern how much energy you can get out of a certain type engine.
Right.
Now, just about any engine that you talk about is considered a heat engine. In other words, what causes it to work is the difference in one temperature and another, and the energy between those 2 points.
Okay, but you have to create the heat is created in the expansion. Am I correct?
Well,
when the gas is expanded.
Yeah, in most cases,
and
that's
you change it from a liquid to a gas. Well, I'll take that back. If you're talking with propane, it's still a gas, but when it ignites, it expands.
Well, let me tell you something. There's a thing in thermodynamics or physics called the Carnot cycle.
Okay.
Right there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what the Carnot cycle is, it's a theoretical engine, and they've worked out the mathematics about the thing, and you can determine what temperature. We're looking right now at a graph here, a graphic, and you see this is a
thermal.
This is the heat. This is the warm side, and this is the cold side. Now you can base any of those engines, break them down into hot and a cold. If it's a gasoline engine, whatever you want to. And I'm not talking about electrical energy. If you've got direct heat to electrical conversion, that's working on a different thing, and the efficiency on it is way down there. Whereas the efficiency of an electric motor is at about 99, you can get to them at 99%. We just got bearing friction. But anyway, these two differences, you can mathematically determine whatever the temperature at the hot side and the temperature at the cold side is. You can figure the maximum amount of work
Right.
that you can extract from those two differences.
Mm-hmm.
You can never get more efficient than a Carnot cycle because it is the best you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure what the Carnot value for a internal combustion engine is, but it's somewhere less than 40%, I'm pretty sure. Let's see. Well, anyway, without going into all that, you can find out what the theoretical maximum energy efficiency is. But if you could run an internal combustion engine, a gasoline engine, diesel engine, if you could run them at the higher the temperature you can run them at, the more work you can get out of them.
Right.
But the only thing is, steel
It'll melt.
starts melting or deforming. That's why they have worked to make a ceramic engine, and they have made them. The only thing is, they're just fine, but somebody comes through and spits on it and it cracks.
Right.
Or you drop it and it shatters it.
It's
so
not forgiving.
Yeah, that's the problem. They can make it stand the temperature several thousand degrees, but it's too brittle.
It cannot stand expansion and
But you've got to go that way in order to get the maximum efficiency, and they're still talking less than 50%. I'm almost sure with the internal combustion engine. So there's a limit on that. As far as solar energy, there's enough energy comes from the sun to keep the world alive. That takes a lot of energy. You think about how cold space is, and this place here's got trees living on it and everything. It's all based on solar energy. Well, you've got some heat from inside the earth from nuclear decay, but you've got all this. Well, it's like this: if you move the earth away from the sun suddenly disappeared. It wouldn't take long for this place to get cold. The good thing is, when the water, if we kept our atmosphere and the water froze over, there would still be life under the ice cover because there's enough geothermal energy to keep life going on.
Well, we're not talking about real complicated life that communicates and whatever.
Well, it depends. I don't know. But the whole point is, all that energy is there from the sun. We just don't have any way to get it out, and there ain't no serious ideas coming forward to figure it out. I mean, it just ain't there. It'd be great, but best we can do is photovoltaic action, and you're getting something 3 or 4% maximum out of that.
Oh yeah, the net is very little.
Well, yeah, after you produce the components and figure that into the actual outcome and the life of the generator, ain't much left. But now here's the thing about it: we have got plenty of energy, and we're not melting our earth down. And we've got a bunch of people. We've got the communists found refuge in the environmental movement. That's the way they want to take over control of the earth. And the idiots are just the useful idiots. They're the ones that are out there following into all that stuff and going right along and saying we can't build this pipeline because it's going to add to global warming, but they're going to burn it on somewhere else. It's the same earth.
Same air, isn't it?
And we could right now, we are in a position to be where we were in 1880 when we were just at the beginning of the greatest expansion and industrial and wealth growth in the history of the world. But what we don't have now is the size of government and regulations that we had at that time. And we don't have enough people out there that are of the mindset to go out and develop anything. We've been beat back by regulations and people making us expect them to take care of us. You know, I have these people complain about somebody ain't. The government ought to do something about it or something. Well, I'm tired of government doing something about it.
Yeah.
Had another guy up here. He's a good old soul. He's complaining because he wasn't getting enough Social Security to live on. Of course, he's retired from he retired as what do you call it when you get sick? Disability retirement.
Invalid or
No, he retired early, medical retirement, and he's got a bunch of child support that's being deducted from his Social Security, and the thing about it is, well, I paid it in all my life, and well, no, he ain't near as old as I am, and if he didn't have these young'uns running around he's having to pay for, he'd have twice as much Social Security coming in as I got. Plus, he's got all his insurance paid for, and he gets this year one thing. He gets so much a year or so much twice a year or something to buy medical supplies with. Mm-hmm. If he don't use it, he loses it. So he bought $300 or $400 worth of socks here back 2 or 3 months ago, and they were $14 per pair.
Okay, I see.
I mean, I ain't knocking what he's got. I ain't knocking it at all. I'm glad he's got it, and I hope he gets all he wants and does well. But he done drawed out more than he ever put in. I'd bet on it. And whether he had or whether he's not, the more they give him, we're going to have to take off other people. If the government, I got Social Security. They can have every bit of it. I'll never ask for a penny if they'll just get out of my way and let me make a living.
I can understand that. I become a little pessimistic about government sometimes. When I get to looking at all the stuff and everything that's wasted, not only resources but time in certain things. I can really hit on a bad note right there. I kind of make a joke about the thing sometimes that when you look at a ball stadium or any kind of sporting event, you got thousands upon thousands of people all grouped up. One of them saying yay for this side and yay for that side or whatever else. Mm. And whenever I think about the cost of doing this, and I'm talking about the people who have paid untold amounts of money just to sit in that seat and watch these people do whatever they do, and the transportation, everything else, then if you're watching it on TV, within 30 seconds, they show you so many thousand children that are starving to death. And it's kind of hard for me to understand how that you can have one thing and yet the other thing, I don't know, for some reason I can't understand it. Of course, if you're raised in the environment that where you've got time and whatever to participate in sports, would probably have a whole lot of bearing on it. Myself, I just didn't have the time or whatever. There was always that thing, I think that dirty word, what do they call it, work?
Well, the reason you have people starving one place and people throwing food away another place has got nothing to do with the ability to produce. It's got to do with government.
Right.
Now that's the whole fact of the matter.
Well, I see these war movies. All this infrastructure and of course the human resources that are lost, and of course these are people who are young people who are in the prime of their life, and what has it all proven in the long run after it's all over? Chances are the war is over some form of government, whether one form of government or another one, and taking over real estate or whatever you want to area, resources. Mm-hmm. But look what all is lost and what is gained by it.
Right here,
I understand it.
You would think that a nuclear energy using a steam generator would be pretty efficient. And compared to gasoline, it is.
The steam plants, I mean the nuclear plants, consume a lot of the energy that they produce.
I know, but that ain't where you lose your efficiency. You just got so much heat and so much cold. You just get down as cold as the surrounding water. I mean, it don't make sense.
Right.
So, it says here a typical nuclear power station's actual efficiency is about 35%, although in theory it can go up as high as 47.6%. But that's still based on the ambient air temperature and stuff like that. And that is about, either 35%, it's about 10% better than most gasoline engines.
Okay.
So we're going to lose something in our conversion. But here's something else. There is nothing lost. Everything that we extract from gasoline, petroleum, when we burn it, is still here.
It's just changed its form.
Yeah, it's changed its form. Now, there is a theory that has some serious acceptance that we'll always have petroleum because it's being replenished inside the earth at all times.
You mean them dinosaurs are down there?
No, they ain't dinosaurs. They are a mixture of the components that are here in water, which is here under heat and pressure at the earth. And if you think, well, that's impossible, there ain't nothing left. You burn that gas and it's all still here. If you can figure out some way to put it back together, there's two things you've got that's down deep in the earth that are necessary. One is pressure and the other is heat. And you take those two things and you can make gasoline out of these same components. Well, you make petroleum, you got to refine it to get gasoline. So we're not going to run out. But we might find better ways.
Have our schools, do they still promote this theory of oil being produced by all this
dinosaurs?
Yeah. Do they still push that?
Well, yeah, that's the way that it's produced. And we run out of them dead dinosaurs. And where I get the word dinosaur, I had a teacher that called them dinosaurs.
Well,
so I learned in school to be dinosaur.
Whenever they talk about all this, these mammoths and dinosaurs dying in these tar pits and creating the oil, if you stop and think about it, the tar pit was there first, and they happened to wander into it and got. Or that's my theory on the thing.
Yeah, I think you may be right. It's like the fly paper was there before the fly got stuck on it.
And I think they got stuck in it, and that's how they come up with that theory. But if you go back to what we were taught, that all this oil and stuff was formed by dinosaurs or vegetation or whatever else, look at the depth of the oil and how deep we have to drill to get it, which means that all that would had to have been that deep in order to, because it's not going to sink that deep. So, but anyhow,
I don't know. What gets me is anytime you want to go back in time, you just dig a little deeper. Where'd all that dirt come from?
Good question.
I mean, they go out here and there'll be a flat spot, and they'll dig down and find a town under it, and they'll dig down another 10 feet and find another town. I don't know. They may be a town at the center of the earth. We just ain't got to it yet. But I really wonder about that. Looks like he'd uncover as much. Has to uncover something in order to cover something up.
Normally you'll hit bedrock in this country somewhere along the line. They don't usually do that around here, though. I mean,
well, I don't know.
In this area,
you go in one of these caves and start digging. Where'd the dirt come from?
Good question.
Blowed in there?
No.
So you find, and we're not talking about back Noah flood stuff. We're talking about you go in there and you find some dishes, some old clay pots, and you dig down a little deeper, and there's some more clay pots, and you dig down a little deeper, and there's some more. Them people must not done nothing but carry dirt.
Yeah, and make clay pots.
Make clay pots and cover them up with dirt and make some more.
You know, back in a couple of years ago, we had that big solar flare.
The one that just missed us.
The one that just missed us. If had we been, they said it was 9 days. We missed it by 9 days. Had we been, let's say that it had held off 9 days, or well, anyhow, if you go back the sun goes in the 11-year cycles.
Yeah.
Of where the North and the South Pole they swap, and I can't understand why they swap.
It swaps here too.
Right, but not every 11 years.
No,
though.
usually about 700.
Yeah.
700,000 years.
Well, I believe we're in the process of doing that at this point in time.
Maybe.
But what is or do you have any theories as to why? And I haven't researched this. I need to do that as to why the North and the South Pole of the sun swaps on a cycle of about 11 years.
I don't know. I reckon it's just the way the rotation churns it.
Okay. It seems to me, if we're talking magnetic, that there would have to be something that would have an effect on it that would make it do that.
Well, you've seen a top spinning and it starts to wobble and finally falls over. Well, the sun can't fall over, but it can wobble and flop. And I think there might be an internal wobble to this thing, just because of the way it's moving. And I don't know that's got anything to do with it. That's just what I think.
But anyhow, if we had been, if this had occurred and we had went through this thing,
we had one back when this first came out with telegraph. It melted telegraph wires and everything.
That was in 1859.
Yeah.
And it melted the telephone lines.
Let me tell you something else we have got some of Mr. Putin, the Russian submarines patrolling the coast down South America and up in there.
Well, they're coming up into the Gulf too.
Yeah,
the Gulf of Mexico.
They've got the capability of launching one of them there EMT attacks. Is that it? EMF attacks.
Electromagnetic pulse, EMP.
EMP.
Yeah.
EMF is electromotive force.
Yeah.
Anyway, up over there, and they say that'll do all sorts of damage. I really don't think that it would be as I may be completely wrong. They claim it'd knock out 90% of the people within a year. I don't believe that, but first off,
you're talking about the not the explosion.
No,
would not have any effect.
No, just a lack of electricity. Something we don't need energy disruption. I mean, we don't need energy anyway. I don't know how little energy disruption could kill 90% of people, but the same people that tell me that we don't need all this energy are the same ones that are telling me 90% of us would be dead without it in a year. Now, I wouldn't want to be in New York City when the lights went out and the trains quit running. Where are you going to get anything? I guess they're going to come kill us and take ours, so we're dead too.
There was something crossed my mind the other day, which was just out of the wild blue yonder. If the president or our country cut back on our military considerable, which has been up for discussion, and I think they're kind of working on it at this point in time, I believe. But if they do that, and of course we go back to the only war that's ever been fought to amount to anything on this country other than skirmishes with the Indians was the Civil War. And you could see at that point in time, back in the 1860s, how much damage was done with the armaments they had at that time.
600,000 people.
Right. If we get into any type of confrontation now, I feel that part of that would be fought here on our homeland.
I think so too. You know,
and
there are some people that are claiming that we have all our military vessels lined up, something like we had them at Pearl Harbor. It would be an opportune time to take out the whole Navy.
Well, yeah. But the point that really struck me is whenever that was thinking about it, if we do not have the military to protect us, especially if we're fighting on our homeland, it's going to boil down to the citizens are going to have to protect themselves, not only against whoever the foreign power would be, but I got a feeling that there would be a lot. You'd have to protect yourself against a lot of your local.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
especially the politicians.
Well, there's not many people, and I used to think that I could survive, but once I done some reading, there was a lot of things that I had overlooked in survival.
Well, I think I could
Uh,
survive left alone, but if I am able to come up with something to eat, somebody's going to come take away from me. I can't fight off everybody.
That's right. But if you were to create some sort of disruption in our electric grid, a major disruption, you've watched this survival thing on TV, and I'll tell you, that's for entertainment. That's not, there's some good points in it, but there's a lot of it that is not factual.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of this stuff I get to want to watch it, but as soon as you see some of the stuff that cannot be, then it loses all of its credibility. Whenever you see one, I don't know. I've been around equipment and so forth, and I see why these guys with a can and whatever can go out there and fire up a big generator. I don't buy that.
I saw on here on this thing the other day where some guy went and dipped some grease out of a grease pit, one of the grease traps at a restaurant, and put 2 or 3 things in it and put it in his truck and drove it. Gasoline.
Right. Yeah.
I wouldn't want to try that.
I'll tell you what. First of all, the stuff that comes out of a grease pit, once it gets cold, it gets real thick. As a matter of fact, diesel fuel, I'm talking about refined diesel fuel, will gel. When you start getting out in the west and up in the northwest, and your temperatures start getting down there to 0 and 10 below, that fuel will gel up.
Well, now, this television's on there. It's on, and I was sitting there doing something, and I didn't get a whole lot of it. But this guy, I don't know what the show is, but it was a setup where everybody's gone, and he went and showed how to hot wire a Suburban, and he's driving it down the road. In order to get gas, he went to this restaurant. There ain't nobody around with him. He's supposed to be the only person alive, I reckon.
Yeah.
And he went over and dipped this grease out of this here grease trap.
Okay.
And it wasn't thick. I mean, it was still runny. It wasn't cold.
Well, it had to have been a right temperature for it still running.
Well, I know. I'm gonna say I'm gonna give him that it wasn't Crisco. It was Mazzola.
Okay.
So he takes that and he put it in this jug and he mixed. I believe he mixed Drano or something with it. They'd have got him making meth around here. But he mixed that and something else to it and poured it through a filter. I bet he was making meth. And then he claimed he could run his truck on it for about 100 miles.
On how much?
Well, I didn't say how much. I mean, I'm going to assume I'm going to give him 5 gallons if he wants to. But I don't believe he'd run on it. Don't you have to do something to... Well, I'm not a chemist, but I don't believe you can take grease and get gasoline out of it that simple.
Of
course, the good thing is, if your truck stops running, you go steal you another.
Yeah.
He'd be better off just stealing one that had gas in it all the time.
Or steal some gas out of one that...
Well,
yeah.
I'm assuming that they didn't have any way to pump it out of the ground because the electricity is all off. They never used a dipper before.
Yeah, that's some of the stuff I saw. Of course, we're getting off into a thing that gets out there, but this old boy, he was a ex-Marine and he knew everything about survival. And first thing he did was go to a hospital because they had a generator. And of course, I don't know where if a hospital's full.
You go up at the phone company, they've got a generator too.
Yeah, but in a hospital, the first thing that you're going to run into is going to be a real bad odor.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that's not down there where they keep the generator.
Yeah,
that's up there where they keep the patient.
Yeah, but this guy, this looks like about a V12 Cat, and it had run out of fuel. You know, it starts up on its own automatically and whatever else, but anyhow, it had run till it had run out. So he went and got him a gallon of fuel out of a tank somewhere, and the first thing I noticed when he went to pouring it, it didn't pour like fuel. Water, if fuel's got water in it, it's got a different, you can see the way it pours. It don't pour right. The retention is different on it. But anyhow, he pours this gallon and goes over and hits the button, that sucker fires right up.
Oh boy.
I've never seen a Cat engine, if you run it dry fuel, you got to prime everything in it and bleed the injectors out.
Yeah.
And
he didn't have enough to prime the thing.
That's right. An engine that big, a big old V12, it would took a gallon or two just to get the injectors filled up.
You know good and well they would have that. And why in the world would you do that anyway? You don't need that kind of electricity.
No.
You'd be better off to go down to Walmart and steal your little gasoline generator.
And I believe they made the statements, that thing, we got electric current for 10 or 12 hours. And I thought, yeah, you can run one of them on a gallon of fuel for.
If he did, the first thing he if he didn't go throw the breaker on that thing, he wouldn't have had any energy. I mean, if he'd actually got started, everything at hospital going to be running off of it. It'd been gone in 3 minutes.
Oh, less than that.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how much he had.
The fuel, but anyhow, this is whenever I see something like that, first thing that automatically makes me think the rest of it's a hoax. You know what I mean? The survivors, the key thing to surviving, in my opinion, is being able to defend yourself and defend whatever goods you have. And I know that's a dirty word. That's a 3-letter word. I guess you could stretch it out and call it a weapon. But to me, that's the only way that elderly people or whatever, unless you're King Kong, go out there and whoop everything. And that little feller's got that ounce of lead can sure change your attitude real quick. So anyhow, that's I don't know how we got off on all this stuff.
Well, I want to get off on what we're warming back here, because we got some of that energy, and we get it in a can down there at Digger Wilson's in the middle of Sawmill Holler at 5625444 for all your propane needs. And I went down there and got 200 pounds today. I'm thinking that's going to do me a little spring.
Yeah.
And I don't know when spring gets here. I thought it was last week.
Well, you know, I've been one to tinker with things.
Uh-oh.
You know what I'm talking about?
There goes the roof.
Yeah, there goes the roof.
I still 10.
But I've had a pretty good year in my tinkering, and it seems like we have come up with a way to use the used stuff.
Yeah.
And it's worked pretty good so far. But the only thing is I'm running out of it now.
I've used the same tube before 3 or 4 times. You get into a problem taking them out recycled tube forks. You know, they're not as thick now as they was 30 years ago.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They really ain't.
Really?
They cut them back 1/4 inch.
Yeah, okay.
I know I had some old tube fours that I'd tore down. I was building a little old office, and I had tube fours that I'd tore down, and some didn't have enough, and I bought some new ones, and I mixed them up, and my wall was like that.
Yeah, okay, you got a wrinkle
I didn't know that. I mean, I found out, but
that's where it's nice to have flexible sides, where you can cover them.
I've never let plumb bobs and levels and squares get in my way of building, I tell you.
I heard that.
5625444 if you want some good propane.
I was got a little curious about natural gas, and I don't know what got me interested in it. It's something to do with oh yeah, I know what it was. This little skirmish we're having over there in Ukraine, Crimea and whatever, and it was suggested that we could supply, we've got so much natural gas that we could supply Europe if that guy that the president said he could be more flexible with after the election.
Boy, he's been flexible, and he's been bent over for a while.
Over real good.
Yeah.
But I believe we're the ones that's getting the shaft. But anyhow, they stated, one of these educated politicians, I believe it was the one that said Guam would sink if we increased our naval base over there. I believe that's the one that stated it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Guam's going to sink.
You're going to roll over.
They said it's going to capsize.
That's right,
it's going to roll over. I did a little research on natural gas, and that's kind of like everything else. It's a world of its own. And when the gas in a natural gas well, it's called raw gas. And
I know about that.
Oh, yeah. First thing they've got to do is get the moisture out of it. And all of it has moisture. And the type of gas is classified as to whether it's on top of an oil deposit or whether it's just a deposit in the ground that they've hit into a gas pocket. It's rated different, but both of them have moisture in it, and the moisture has to be taken out before it can be transported by pipeline. If not, the moisture will create a problem inside the pipeline. It'll deteriorate it and damage it. Then you get back to the people or organizations or whoever that drill the wells and this and that and whatever don't always own the line. The line is owned by a different company or group. And the pipeline company won't accept the gas without it meets certain specifications. But anyhow, what I'm getting around to is, if Putin shuts the gas off to Europe, I don't see no way in the world that we can transport enough natural gas to Europe to meet their needs.
Well, you can haul a whole lot of it. When we bring enough Middle Eastern oil over here to run our cars, about 30% of them anyway.
That's right.
But natural gas is not a gas whenever it's moved. It's liquid gas.
Okay, but to be liquid, it has to be compressed.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, hauling oil in a tanker is one thing. Transporting a pressure vessel is a whole different thing.
They do it every day.
I know they do it every day. But if you're going to
and if you get a spill, hell, it does bubble. If you don't light it.
Yeah.
In which case it whistles a little while.
But I thought that was interesting that somebody was suggesting we could supply the gas to Europe, or natural gas.
Well, I don't think we could do all that, but I'm sure we could put a dent in Russia's plans. But the thing about it is, we could put a dent in the world. We need to move to Canada. If they'd pass the Second Amendment, I'd move up there.
Okay.
Really, I would.
Right. Okay.
Because they got out of people's business and started. They're going to be ahead of us in just a little while. They're not going to owe the world everything. You remember that? Did you ever see that? That's a page from.
Is that from Al Gore's?
That's Science Magazine. There are ominous signs that the Earth's weather patterns have begun to change dramatically. Does that sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
And that these changes may portend a drastic decline in food production with serious political implications for just about every nation on Earth. Does that sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
The drop in food output could begin quite soon, perhaps only 10 years from now. The region is destined to feel its impact are the great wheat-producing lands of Canada and the USSR in the north, along with a number of marginally self-sufficient tropical areas, parts of India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indochina, and Indonesia, where the growing season is dependent upon the rains brought by the monsoons. Evidence in support of these predictions by now begun to accumulate so massively that meteorologists are hard pressed to keep up with it. In England, farmers have seen their growing season decline by about 2 weeks since 1950, with the resultant overall loss in grain production estimated up to 100,000 tons annually. Now it goes on, and it's a trend that just they've got a graph here where it's just a certain thing, and it says that the average temperature changed from 1880, and it went up 0.9 degrees, and it's back down 0.3 degrees, and let's see here, what are they saying? This is 1970, but the meteorologists think that they can forecast the short-term results of the return to the norm of the last century. They begin by noting a slight drop in overall temperature that produces large numbers of pressure centers in the upper atmosphere. And what this was all about, this was the Ice Age scare that we went through in the mid-70s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was worried about not being able to raise crops in the snow. I ain't too worried about not being able to raise crops when it's raining.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I mean, it's going to be warm and wet. We're going to have food. That was scary. This stuff we've got now is foolishness. And it's the same people pushing the same deal, but with different results. But that's just foolishness. That was in Newsweek, April 28th, 1975.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? We got
Yep.
all worried about it. And that's about the time swine flu went through and going to kill the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of this stuff that I don't pay a whole lot of attention to it. There's all sorts of things plenty more to worry about close hand, I think.
Yeah.
Than what this is. And
Well, if you get too worried about your health and need to ride to the hospital, you need to call Vital Care at 562-9370 because they are there to please. They work hard. John Bond's been in business most of his life, and he knows what he's doing, and they don't rely on tax dollars to keep them afloat. They rely on customer satisfaction. 562-9370. And right there beside there's a little thing if you want to write the number down. It's on a card, flips up there on the website, and you can call 911 for ambulance and request Vital Care if you want to. 562-9370 if you want to call them directly. I'm done commercialing.
well, a necessary thing. What about? I was thinking about something. You know, when you fellas first got started into
Yeah.
discussing things and
Yeah,
whatever
right
else,
before we started getting shot at.
yeah, one of the big things came up was the Humpback Bridge.
Yeah.
And that thing sticks in my mind, and it boils down to a whole lot of what, like your
Camel
local,
Hump Bridge.
Yeah. Okay, Camel Hump Bridge. I call it the Humpback Bridge
Yeah.
or whatever. Anyhow,
You
it's
know what
got a
I
hump
think
in it.
of? I think them are little twisted pine trees they put out there. It's all dead now. Cedar trees, whatever they were.
Well, we spend money. Wait a minute. We don't spend it.
they spend
The
it for us.
politicians spend the money.
We, just
We
get the
earn
money.
it.
Yep.
And we turn it over to them. If we get into some deep philosophy on all this stuff, the city has, well, the local city and the government everywhere, they're spending money that we don't have, of course. They're building us a bill that we cannot pay.
Yep.
Our children will not pay it. And I heard a gentleman tell me the other day that this did not concern him. He didn't care about it, didn't worry him one bit. And that kind of surprises me that this old Hicks out here, whenever we make a debt, it seems to me like we've got to pay it or somebody's got to pay it. And the bill will come due eventually.
I'll tell you what I hate to see. I hate to see them waste money when I know they're wasting it. Just like the solar panels that they put on the rooftops. Nobody with any common sense believed that there was anything to that except crony capitalism.
That right.
And the rest of the thing is, if everything they promised us about that, besides the fact that it wouldn't cost us any money, and we already know that it cost us $1.2 million.
Right.
But if it had been absolutely free, it still would not make sense to put them things on top of schoolhouses, because the county has got property around, vacant fields everywhere. They could put them on in a field and put a fence around them. They could have serviced them and not had to climb on top of a house. They wouldn't have caused the roof to leak. Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
It would have been right there. And you say, yeah, but it wouldn't be up where the sun had hit it. You've got 93 million miles between here and the sun. The height of a building is
20
not
foot's
going
gonna make that
ain't
much
gonna make
difference.
no difference.
Yeah.
So,
Well-
you know, it's just absolutely no common sense involved in this stuff. I mean, if you think logically, if you think about a way to spend money and get money in return, that's a great way to do it.
Well, still yet we go back to the technology. It's not financially feasible.
No, no.
I mean, I don't care
Well, it
where you
ain't
put 'em.
technically feasible.
It's not
either.
technically feasible. It just isn't.
Well, you got a big gamble there. You buy something with what, a 5-year guarantee, and you expect it to take
1 year on the ones we bought.
1 year guarantee, and they're expecting to take 12 years or so to get broke even, and then we're going to start making money.
I believe there's more years than that involved. I believe it's up about 16 year, I think. I'm
Well,
not
it just
sure, but
takes one or
anyhow.
two things to go wrong to keep putting it off. don't it?
Okay, let me back up and say this. Were it not for the TVA offering to pay more for what we produce with the solar panels than what the utility will sell it for us to, that boils down.
It wouldn't even come close to making any money or paying
No,
itself.
there's no way. There's no way it'll pay off. And the taxpayer, that's amazing. They have to pay that difference.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
it makes
the ratepayer.
No sense. It makes no
You
sense.
take somebody, just a stranger, don't
ratepayer.
own property, don't buy nothing. Here he comes to town. He's going to, if he turns the light bulb on, he's going to pay extra because he's subsidizing all them other people. I mean, it's
Right. Well, the TVA
is a socialist organization anyway.
It is. It's a quasi-government socialist, whatever. But they're not really in as good a financial standing
No.
as you'd think.
No,
or as
they
anybody
ain't.
Think. They just borrowed back about 6 months ago $1 billion.
There's already $30 billion in debt, wasn't he?
Well, they borrowed another, and they're up to. They can't hardly borrow, but very, very little more. They're at a limit.
Yeah.
Of course, that doesn't mean anything to a government agency. All you do is raise the limit.
No, you just raise the price of stamps, don't you?
You just raise the limit,
You don't
and
close
whatever.
no post offices. You just raise the price of stamps.
The TVA. One example would be what they did over at Phelps Bend. They went in there. They're putting that nuclear plant in there, and they found out that the demand. They got these engineers that says the demand is going to be such and such and such.
Yeah.
Okay, they didn't have the demand, and that's the problem TVA is having now.
Yeah.
Their demand is falling way off.
Yeah.
They lost their number one top consumer.
Alcoa?
It wasn't Alcoa. Well, they've lost Alcoa too, but there was another one up in, I believe it's Paducah, or somewhere up around there in Kentucky. And I'm thinking, it had to do something with, I can't think of what it is now. I keep up with this stuff, but anyhow, it was their number one consumer, and they lost it. So the TVA now has far more capacity than...
Well, you need to think that most of these things are not made in a logical business manner. None of them. You know somebody's going to bail you out all the time. You don't make logical decisions. You just
No, the government bails them out, but over at Phelps Bend, they knew that they were going to shut that project down. They knew that it was a no-go. I was trucking at that time, I believe out of Oak Ridge or somewhere, but anyhow, you got all these truckers, independents that are working there, and these old boys that was trucking with us were going up there trucking on the weekends. And they was working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, knowing that they were going to shut it down, that they wasn't going to complete it, but they was getting in, beating it as much time and work on it as they possibly could to run the bill up. But yet, they moved that reactor, they brought it up on barges, they brought it up there, then they had to move it overland.
That's the one where it took them 2 weeks to roll it a mile and a half or something?
Well, something like that. But anyhow, the reactor, this gets back to the engineering. The enclosure was too small for the reactor anyhow. The engineering was all off on it. What do you think they did with that reactor? You'll never guess what they did with it.
No.
They dug a big hole over there and buried the stupid thing. And Japan wanted to buy it.
They didn't even sell it for scrap.
No, sir, they didn't. They buried the thing. Now, the TVA was in debt and always have been or whatever. But the ratepayers is the ones that pays for these people to make these decisions.
It's a government project, really. TVA is a government operation. My daddy told me, and we just got a little bit of time, but my daddy told me that in Oak Ridge, when they built that place, it went up in no time. You know, they built the Pentagon in 18 months or something. It's the biggest building in the world. But they built Oak Ridge over there, and they didn't have time to sit around and price everything. They built everything on cost plus. He said they let a contract to put I may be off on the numbers, but I'm right on the idea. He said they let a contract to put a water line in up the middle of the street there in Oak Ridge. And they sat out there, the contractor come out there and started digging, and they got halfway through, and they realized that their contract called for a 3-inch water line, and they was putting in a 5-inch water line. Now, I may be wrong, maybe in a 4 and a 6, but same idea. They realized that halfway through the project. But because the contract was already let, they finished that job, paved the road, got it okayed, and started tearing it up the next day. And now I said they put in too big a line. They put in a 5 instead of a 3 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So they took that 5 out and
Yeah.
put a 3 in and done the whole thing again. Now, if that had been business in the first place, they'd have said, well, if you could put in a 5-inch, the same price you put in a 3-inch, we'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it costs more. The only thing we've got to do is increase our pump capacity a little bit, and we're good for a whole lot into the future. Because it's like this: a 3-inch pipe will carry 9 times as much water as a 1-inch pipe.
Mm-hmm. But if you've got a 5-inch pipe and you're putting in 3 inches into the pipe, and you're only pulling 3 inches out, it would make no difference whatsoever.
You wouldn't need a pump.
That's right. Once you filled up the excess in
That's
there.
right.
But I'll tell you what, there's other things. Oak Ridge, we got a money hole park.
Yeah.
They got a major one down there. Congress is kind of bucking up on a little thing. They got the engineering and whatever to build a safe area down there.
Yeah.
And did I tell you about this thing?
No.
This is a project, and there's a company in Knoxville that was going to build it for $50 million. So Congress
That wasn't enough. They ought to got 100.
well, Congress is bucked up on it, and they said they could do it for $20 million, but it would not be as all the goodies. You know what I'm talking about?
Elaborate.
Elaborate. There's
Uh-huh.
a good word. But anyhow,
Well, that's a lot of elaboration. $30 million.
okay.
$1 million.
But see, this is strictly for people who are there are supposed to be essential. You know, kind of like what the president's got,
Yeah.
one of these type of things. But when you read on a little further, come to find out the company who bid it or put the $50 million proposal in already have a few of these, and this $50 million was going to be private money, but they want to lease it back to the government.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they already have these buildings or these type things in other areas.
Yeah, it's like
It's
Bob's got this buddy that's quite rich from building buildings and renting to the post office.
there you go. Right
Well,
on.
there's
Yeah.
logic to both sides of that. If a government built it, it'd cost too much to build it.
Well-
And if they tried to maintain it, it'd cost too much to maintain it. So it makes more sense just to rent it from somebody.
It'd be interesting to find out who the executives are that own this company that are renting these back to this.
Oh,
to the
yeah,
government.
I'm sure
Be
it's
interesting.
somebody's brother-in-law.
I'm sure.
We
it is.
got to go. We'll be on Saturday at 5 o'clock on WLAF if you want to listen to us, and on the internet at the same time, and Henson here will be there, I guess. Now, next Tuesday night, we may not be here. We may be off on an excursion.
We'll share useless trivia.
Yeah, you may not notice we're gone anyway, so everybody have a good week. Thank you.